What's up everybody, 40 the Broadway Saiyan here, and welcome back again to my YouTube channel, this time with a video on Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. In this video, we're going to be talking about the art of CATER, because CATER is going to be getting some upgrades soon in Global Opera Omnia in the form of her LD weapon as well as her crystal passive level 90. Just a reminder again, I don't go over the nitty gritty stuff anymore, such as percentages. You guys can follow some awesome YouTube channels such as Black Nero, Josepher, and Simply Lost who do cover that information if you guys want more in-depth stuff. And I also encourage you guys to check out all the resources that I leave in the links down below in the video description as well as the pinned comments if you guys want something to read about data on these characters and what they do exactly and things like that. But the purpose of this video, like all with my other Art of series, is to show you guys some gameplay, kind of like skill rotations and just what the character does with visuals. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the art of CATER. So for those of you who might be unfamiliar with this character or need a refresher, CATER deals ice damage in the form of magic and as well as ranged brave attacks. So she's a hybrid DPS with two different forms of damage coverage, and then her element is ice. Some of the things that she was really cool at is being a evade and counter, so she could evade and then counter attack, so she has a form of off-turn damage. And then with her EX, she applies a debuff on enemies, and what that does is once the enemy's turn is on, or they take their turn, the debuff expires and she deals more off-turn damage. So she's a pretty efficient damage dealer if you want to view her that way. And she also can provoke enemies or taunt enemies with her skill 1. So then that way she could be like a pseudo evasion tank. But that's what she does. She also has brave regen and also being able to recover brave after dealing HP damage. So she's pretty self-sufficient. So that's pretty much what she does in a nutshell. Now with her crystal passive level 90 awakening, the first thing that she's going to be getting is an upgrade to her C65 ability. You get one more use out of this, and then she also gets an added attack as well as brave damage cap, which is pretty nice. So you can benefit from that. I believe it's for 4 turns. And then her EX also gets an upgrade with her crystal passive level 90 awakening. So what it does now is it hits harder and it deals 4 HP dumps. So it hits harder and does more damage, which is good because in the C90 era, it's all about dishing out all that HP damage. So we're just going to go ahead and get started while I explain things. So let's go ahead and actually start off with her C65. And the reason for that is you notice how she started off with 4 buffs. 3 of those buffs are her most important ones. So she starts off with 8 turns of her EX buff, 8 turns of her skill 2 buff, which allows her to be that, evasion counter type of a unit. And then afterwards, 4 turns of her LD buff. Now the LD buff is very important because as you noticed, her brave attack and HP attack command, they started off at level 1. So that's the new thing that they introduced to this character as far as LD wise. But if you don't use those commands on her turn, the next turn they become their max versions. And these are the buttons that you're going to be pressing a lot. Truthfully, she did not get a rework on her skill 1 and skill 2. So you're really only going to be using those either to refresh her buff that allows her to evade and counter, and also to refresh, like let's say like you want to keep them provoked and targeting CATER, so then that way she's protecting your other party members from being attacked from singular attacks. But most of the time you're going to be pressing these buttons, and this comes from her LD. So the max version of the brave attack command is pretty much 4 HP dumps, and in between the brave, the HP damage that she deals, she also recovers brave. It also recharges her EX gauge by 20%, which is really cool. So you're going to be pressing this a lot, especially for like single target boss fights. So this is one of her harder hitting skills. And then this one is going to be used if let's say you're dealing with like multiple enemies and you want to be able to deal like splash damage and things like that. So you're going to be pressing that one. But normally you are going to be pressing this button. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at it right here. Very cool. And she's going to be doing her shenanigans now as an evade and counter. That's her specialty. All right, and now we're actually going to go ahead and take a look at her LD. So her LD deals 4 HP dumps. Each of them have 5 brave hits in between them, and then what it does is it gives her that, it gives her that buff that we were just talking about that gives you access to the max commands of the brave attack and the HP attack. And then one of the cool things that this does is it applies a freeze debuff. Now, unlike Setzer's freeze debuff where it's not framed, this one is framed and it lasts for 3 turns, which can come extremely in handy if you know something is about to come your way that could potentially wipe out your entire party. This also applies applies to her LD call. So if you actually just bring CATER as an LD call, you can actually take advantage of using that 3-turn freeze debuff that's framed on enemies, which is really cool. So that's something to keep in mind if you're going to be investing in this character. Really, really strong. So let's go ahead and take a look at it here. There we go. And as you can see, we have that 3-turn freeze debuff active. So the character itself is really fun to play around with. Like I said, she's a pseudo evasion tank. She's very self-sufficient. She has damage on her own turns and also off turns coming from counters and also coming from her EX debuff, which we're going to take a look at it here soon. All right, let's go ahead and charge up that EX. We're going to refresh her skill 2. There we go. And there we go. So now we're going to go ahead and take a look at her EX. Like I mentioned earlier, it now deals 4 HP dumps with 4 brave hits in between, and it will apply that trap debuff, which expires after the enemy's turn. So here we go. Very nice. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So that's pretty much CATER in a nutshell, guys. She's pretty simple. She's not too hard to understand. Again, most of the time, you're going to be pressing her either her Brave command or HP command. You're going to be using her skills to pretty much either refresh the taunt, or you're going to be using it to refresh the buff that allows her to evade and counter. You want to make sure you press the LD what I want to say about the LD is that if you know something big is coming, press it, especially if she doesn't have her LD buff up, because you need that up. And then afterwards, wait until the freeze debuff expires. So then that way you guys are prolonging the benefit of having that debuff on the target. So then that way, if like let's say if you expect something coming that's about to kill you, you can time it properly. So then that way you can reapply it when you need to. So pretty much CATER, that's her in a nutshell. The art of CATER. If you guys are looking to invest in the character, that is what the character does. But I'll leave that to you guys to decide whether or not you're going to be pulling and investing on this character, but this is pretty much what she does. All right, guys, well, this is going to conclude the video for the art of CATER. Thank you again for watching. This is 40 the Broadway Saiyan signing out. Mahal, everyone.